The Chicago Bulls were founded in 1966, posting a 33-48 record in 1966-67, their first season in the NBA. Their 33-48 record is the best by an expansion team in NBA history. Since their inception in 1966, the Bulls have become one of the more successful franchises in NBA history, mainly due to their dominance in the 1990s. They have won 6 championships, all of which came from the 1990-91 season through the 1997-98 season thanks to Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Phil Jackson, and Dennis Rodman, who joined the roster during their second three-peat. Here are the top 10 players in the history of the Chicago Bulls. 1. Michael Jordan. There is no doubt that the greatest player in the history of the Bulls is Michael Jordan. Jordan began his career in 1984 after Chicago selected him 3rd overall in the draft. He immediately made an impact in his rookie season, averaging 28.2 points, 6.5 rebounds, 5.9 assists, and 2.4 steals en route to winning Rookie of the Year over Hakeem Olajuwon and Charles Barkley. He was also an All-Star and finished 6th in MVP voting during his rookie season. With Jordan leading the way, the Bulls dominated the NBA but failed to reach the finals until Pippen joined the squad. Alongside Pippen, Jordan led the Bulls to their first championship in franchise history in 1990-91. They would go on to win 5 more titles during the 1990s, which could have been more if Jordan had elected not to retire in 1993 to pursue his baseball career. Jordan spent 13 years in Chicago, becoming one of the best players in NBA history. Over those seasons, he averaged 31.5 points, 6.3 rebounds, 5.4 assists, and 2.5 steals per game. He led the Bulls to 6 titles in 6 finals appearances, winning finals MVP every time. He was also a 5-time NBA MVP, 12-time All-Star, 11-time All-NBA selection and 9-time All-Defensive selection. He also won 10 scoring titles in his career, by far the most in NBA history. After winning his 6th championship in 1997-98, Jordan once again retired after the Bulls decided to blow up the team. He returned to the NBA in 2001-02 with the Washington Wizards after a 3-year hiatus. He spent 2 seasons with Washington, retiring for good in 2003. In 2009, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, capping off one of the most dominant and successful careers in NBA history. 2. Scottie Pippen. When it comes to the history of the Bulls, one player that every fan thinks of is Scottie Pippen. Pippen was selected 5th overall in the 1987 draft by the Seattle Supersonics, now the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Sonics traded his rights to the Bulls, leading to one of the greatest dynasties in not only NBA history but all of American sports history. Pippen struggled in his rookie season, averaging just 7.9 points and 3.8 rebounds off the bench for the Bulls. That changed in his second season, where he would become the starting small forward. With Pippen now in the starting lineup next to Michael Jordan, the two created one of the best duos in NBA history. Both were elite scorers and defenders, leading the Bulls to 6 championships during their dynasty in the 1990s. Pippen played 12 seasons in Chicago, averaging 17.7 points, 6.7 rebounds, 5.3 assists and 2.1 steals. He was a 6-time champion, 7-time All-Star, 7-time All-NBA selection, and 8-time All-Defensive selection. In 1993-94, he won the All-Star Game MVP. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2010, ending one of the greatest careers in NBA history. With his number of achievements and his impressive stats, Pippen would be considered the best player in much other franchise's history, but just like during his playing career, he was overshadowed by one player. 3. Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose took the NBA by storm after being selected 1st overall in the 2008 draft by the Bulls. The Chicago native immediately made an impact on a Bulls team that had struggled to remain competitive after winning their last title in 1997-98. In his rookie season, Rose averaged 16.8 points and 6.3 assists, winning the Rookie of the Year award and leading the Bulls back to the playoffs. In just his third season in the NBA in 2010-11, Rose won the MVP award after averaging 25.0 points, 4.1 rebounds and 7.7 assists per game. At the time, he was just 22 years old, becoming the youngest player to win the MVP award in NBA history. Unfortunately for Rose, he suffered a torn ACL in 2012, causing him to miss the rest of the 2011-12 season and the entire 2012-13 season. Since that injury, Rose never fully blossomed, dealing with multiple injuries throughout his NBA career, leaving fans to wonder what he could have been if he never suffered such a terrible injury. Rose played 7 seasons in Chicago, averaging 19.7 points and 6.2 assists per game. He was a Rookie of the Year and MVP award winner, becoming one of the best young point guards in the NBA until his ACL injury in 2012. He was also a 3-time All-Star and was selected to his first and only All-NBA team in 2010-11. While Rose continues to play in the NBA today for the Memphis Grizzlies, many wonder what could have been if he never got hit with the injury bug early in his career. 4. Jerry Sloan. While many NBA fans know Jerry Sloan as one of the most successful coaches in NBA history, he also carved out an impressive playing career. The Bulls drafted Sloan from the Baltimore Bullets, now the Washington Wizards, in the 1966 expansion draft. After failing to see much court time during his one season in Baltimore, Sloan became an instant star for the Bulls, making the All-Star team during his first year with them after averaging 17.4 points and 9.1 rebounds per game. Sloan would spend 10 of his 11 seasons in the NBA with the Bulls, averaging 14.7 points and 7.7 rebounds per game. He was a 2-time All-Star and 6-time All-Defensive selection. Despite never winning a title during his time in Chicago, he is still one of the greatest players in franchise history. After he retired in 1976, he transitioned into coaching both the Bulls and, more notably, the Utah Jazz. Sloan ranks 4th all-time in wins by a head coach with 1,221, and was inducted into the Hall of Fame as a coach in 2009. 5. Artis Gilmore. Known as one of the best players in ABA history, Artis Gilmore also carved out a Hall of Fame career in the NBA. His road to the NBA was an interesting one. He was selected 117th overall by the Bulls in the 1971 draft but instead elected to play in the ABA with the Kentucky Colonels. In 1976, after the NBA and ABA merged, Chicago drafted him in the dispersal draft. Gilmore spent 6 years in Chicago before they traded him to the Spurs in 1982. The Spurs would then trade him back to the Bulls in 1987, where he would play only 24 games before being cut. It did not take long for Gilmore to make his mark in the NBA, averaging 18.6 points, 13.0 rebounds, and 2.5 blocks per game in his first season in the NBA. Gilmore spent 7 years with the Bulls, averaging 19.3 points, 11.1 rebounds, and 2.1 blocks per game. He was a 4-time All-Star and was selected to an All-Defensive team in 1977-78. In 2011, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame after putting together an incredible career in both the NBA and the ABA. 6. Bob Love. Before Jordan and Pippen arrived in Chicago, Bob Love was the team's best offensive player. Love was acquired by the Bulls in 1968 in a trade with the Milwaukee Bucks. After joining the Bulls, Love paired perfectly next to Artis Gilmore and Jerry Sloan, leading Chicago to the playoffs in 6 of his 9 years with the franchise. In his 9 years in Chicago, Love averaged 21.3 points and 6.8 rebounds per game. He was a 3-time All-Star, 2-time All-NBA selection, and 3-time All-Defensive selection. Despite his lack of NBA awards, Love carved out a great NBA career, especially in the Windy City. 7. Dennis Rodman. 3 seasons in the Windy City, Rodman averaged 5.2 points and 15.3 rebounds per game. He was a 3-time champion and was selected to the All-Defensive Team in 1995-96. In 2011, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, capping off one of the best careers by a forward in NBA history. 8. Joakim Noah. The Bulls selected Joakim Noah 9th overall in the 2007 draft. He spent 9 seasons with the franchise, becoming one of the best centers and defenders in the NBA during his time with the franchise. Noah was the heart and soul of the Bulls during the late 2000s and early 2010s. Noah and Derrick Rose formed one of the best duos of their time, making the Bulls one of the most feared teams in the NBA. Despite this, they only reached the Eastern Conference Finals once, in 2010-11, losing to the Miami Heat. He helped the Bulls remain competitive through some tough seasons that saw Rose tear his ACL and deal with multiple other injuries. In Noah's 9 seasons in Chicago, he averaged 9.3 points and 9.0 rebounds per game. He was a 2-time All-Star and 3-time All-Defensive selection. In 2013-14, he was selected to an All-NBA team for his career's first and only time. That same season, he took home the Defensive Player of the Year award after averaging 1.2 steals and 1.5 blocks per game. Although the Bulls never made it to the finals during Noah's tenure with the franchise, he was still an important part of the team's success, making him one of the greatest Bulls of all time. 9. Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler began his career in 2011 after being selected 30th overall by the Bulls. In his first season, Butler saw limited court time, playing just 8.5 minutes per game. His minutes would increase over the next 2 seasons, but he would become a star in 2014-15, averaging 20.0 points, 5.8 rebounds, and 1.8 steals en route to being named an All-Star for the first time and winning the Most Improved Player award. Butler played 6 years in Chicago, averaging 15.6 points, 4.8 rebounds and 1.5 steals per game. He quickly became one of the NBA's best defenders, being selected to 3 All-Defensive teams. He was also a 3-time All-Star and was selected to an All-NBA team in 2016-17. The Bulls could have built a team around Butler but instead elected to trade him to the Minnesota Timberwolves in 2017. If they had not done so, it is likely that he would be higher on this list, especially with the amount of success he has had recently with the Miami Heat. Although they did trade him, he is still one of the greatest Bulls of all time despite his short stint in the Windy City. 10. Toni Kukoč. During the 1990s, NBA franchises rarely scouted players from overseas, unlike in today's NBA. Despite this, the Bulls had their eye on Croatian forward, Toni Kukoč, who they selected 29th overall in the 1990 NBA draft. Kukoč did not make his NBA debut until 1993-94, playing 3 seasons in pro leagues in Yugoslavia and Italy before making his way to the United States. After arriving in Chicago, he fit in well, averaging 10.9 points and 4.0 rebounds per game during his rookie season. During his NBA career, Kukoč spent most of it coming off of the bench. His best season came in 1995-96, the same season the Bulls went 72-10, the best record in a season in NBA history until the Golden State Warriors broke it in 2015-16. During that season, Kukoč was named 6th Man of the Year and helped Chicago begin their second three-peat. Kukoč spent 7 seasons in the Windy City, averaging 14.1 points, 4.8 rebounds, and 4.2 assists per game. Although he was never named an All-Star, he was still an important part of the Bulls' 3 straight championships from 1995-96 to 1997-98. He was also important to the NBA, becoming one of the first international superstars to come and play in the league, opening the door for many other international stars. Because of this, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2021.